Jamal Murray looks like he tore his ACL. That is not official, but if you watch that tape and you watch that highlight and you see what happened to Jamal, who was already battling a knee injury and had missed the prior, I think, 3 games, they bring him back, and I think there was under a minute left in the game when he runs down the floor, and you know it's an ACL because it's the Jimmy Garoppolo injury. You plant that leg, and you just get hit by a sniper. Like, it is...
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate if you're a Denver Nuggets fan because I think this ends their season, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely if he tore his ACL, which I do believe he did as well, it definitely crushes any hope that you had of a Western Conference championship or a potential NBA Finals appearance. I think that they'll still make the postseason, but they'll scrape in and they'll figure it out from there. You know, I think that they have a great team. I think that Aaron Gordon now is going to have the spotlight on him. He's going to have to step up even more, which I think he's capable of doing, by the way. I just think you can't replace the creativity and the way Jamal plays the game. And that's the tough part.
Yeah, I don't even know how you rebound from this if you're the Denver Nuggets. I mean, it's demoralizing. I thought it was an incredible moment, much like Klay Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
Remember in the playoffs, Klay tears his ACL, wants to stay in the game, is in the tunnel doing jumping jacks, essentially, jumping up and down, tears his ACL, comes back out, shoots the free throws, and then argues about being taken out of the game. Jamal Murray under the basket, on the floor, writhing in pain.
Same way that Klay did.
It's really difficult to watch. He is just such a good player who everybody hates unless you're a Nugget fan because he's that good of a player. And you just quickly realize that he's so integral to that team.
Mm-hmm.
And for a team like the Nuggets to see their leader writhing in pain on the floor, I mean, if you think about the Jazz, it'd be Donovan Mitchell. If you think about the Lakers, it'd be LeBron James. Or, I mean, pick your poison here.
Uh-huh.
Any of the best players on any team.
Yeah.
Writhing in pain on the floor when so obviously you have a significant injury. It was Cadizzle with the Warriors.
Yep.
When KD went down with the torn Achilles. Like, it just sucks the life out of you. And that's really hard to recover from. And then, oh, by the way, you still have a month of the season left to play, so you have a little time to figure this out. But, Jake, I don't see any way on the floor, X's and O'Y's, I don't see any way the Denver Nuggets can replace Jamal Murray.
Yeah, it's not. So look, you don't replace Jamal Murray. I mean that's not going to happen. But I think that one thing we have to be mindful of is that Jamal Murray isn't the whole team. You know what I mean? Like, yes, he is their leader. Yes, he is one of the best players they have. Yes, he's a massive loss. Yes, to all of that. But at the same time, you have other options here that can still produce for you. And really all that it means is now you're going to go towards more of a team brand of basketball. Instead of playing the two-man game constantly with Jokic and Murray, you're now going to switch to probably something that's more ball movement based and something that puts guys like Jokic and Aaron Gordon in good positions to score. I mean, that's what you have to do as a team. And I think that this will obviously test their depth on their roster. I will say that I think that they've got guys who can come in and play point guard. They won't do what Jamal does. I'm not saying that they're just going to replace Jamal Murray, but what I am saying is that you can find a way to work around this. They'll still make the postseason. I don't know that they win a playoff series. It really depends on the matchup. I think they're still capable of winning one, but much past the first round, I don't think this team has what it takes now without him. So I just think, yes, it basically ends your season from that sense because this team definitely had NBA Finals aspirations. I don't think there's any doubt of that. I just think that this is a crushing blow. So
yeah, it really hurts. It really hurts. So let's get into the Jazz last night. Make sure you go ahead and hit subscribe right here on our YouTube channel. Please, if you're watching this video, give us a thumbs up. It makes a huge difference on the channel to give us that thumbs up and that like and hit subscribe. We really appreciate it. We are 5 followers or subscribers. God dog it. I almost made it.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph, take the wheel. What do you always say? Joseph, take the wheel. We're 5 subscribers away from 350, which is a huge milestone in such a short amount of time being on YouTube. So we really appreciate that. And thanks to everybody listening on the audio podcast as well. You can subscribe too. Just Google search The Monty Show. Monty, The Monty Show. The Jazz win last night, and really, I think nothing short of a sensational performance out of Bjoan Bogdanovic last night. It was really impressive to see him. I think he was 6 of 8 from 3, 31 points. Really made a difference for a lot of guys that fell off in this game against Washington. I think the absolute bright spot, silver lining takeaway from this game, Jake, is the performance of Bjoan Bogdanovic.
Yeah, I mean, you have to give him credit, finally. I mean, we've been waiting, not even exaggerating, I think we've literally been waiting like 25, 30 games for this guy to come back. And I think that finally you saw last night his capabilities as a shooter, and that's the guy that they need. You can't have Bogdanovic going 1 of 7 from 3 and think that you're going to consistently win. And I think it's one of these things where Bogie needs to continue to build on this now. You know, you can't be a do it for one game and then not do it for 5 games, then do it for 1 game again. I want to see him continue to build on this, but a really nice game for him, no question about it.
How do you keep this going? Because I think Bojan's such a huge part of what the Jazz do. He is a builder. He is significant in their success or failure. Now, we can talk all about the offense that he had, and it was awesome. I mean, looking at the box, this is the best line he's had in a very long time. 6 of 10, 33 points last night for Bjoan Bogdanovic in total. I mean, he was at times spectacular. Several of those threes were absolutely scintillating. You know, you look at the fact that he gave you 5 rebounds, and that was really it, only 1 dime. No assists, no blocks, 2 turnovers, which is better, by the way. The 2 turnovers is absolutely better.
Yeah.
But he's still a turnstile on defense.
Yeah.
So if he's giving you 33 points on 6 of 10 from 3, I think you'll take the weakness on defense, right?
Yeah, I mean, you will. I think the thing, you know, if we're trying to figure out why he went off last night, I think, you know, in watching that game, you know, what I noticed is that the Jazz were able to get the Wizards into precarious situations on defense many times. And a lot of that led to Bogie getting really nice, clean looks. And I think that is important for any NBA team, to get your shooter, to get your guy who you rely on to make threes, to get them open looks is a huge thing. And that happened last night. There are many nights for the Jazz where I look at the shots that Bogdanovic gets, and while by NBA standards they are open looks, they're still contested on some level. Last night there were 3 or 4 of those that were just wide open shots. 2 of them were in transition where he just floated to the corner, wide open shots, knocked him down. He had a really nice one coming off of a pick on the wing. And, you know, obviously it goes without saying that he was feeling good last night. But the Jazz need that kind of production on a nightly basis. And I'm not saying he's going to do 30 every night, but I'd love to get 20, 25 out of Bogie every single night. That's the expectation.
Yeah, and I think that's what you need for this team. I mean, him playing that well is just such a boost for this club. And when you really start to think about the strengths and weaknesses, look, folks, we're a month away from the playoffs.
Yeah.
Strength and weaknesses now are defined. And I think what we've talked about on this show for the better part of 6-8 weeks now is that the Jazz really struggle to contain guards and wing players who get to the basket. You saw Russell Westbrook last night, who is one of my least favorite players ever, but you got to give credit where credit's due. His handle was on point. His hesitation, and his crossovers were unbelievable, and it tortured the Jazz. It made life very difficult. You know, the other thing I guess, Jake, we have to talk about is, does Mike Conley playing in this game mean the Jazz win this game? Because I think I can make the argument that it does. But my issue is he didn't play because you were trying to give him rest.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as Mike Conley's a guy that's been really elite when he's played for the Jazz. I just don't know that you can count on him.
Yeah, so Russell Westbrook last night gives you 25, 14, and 14. So there's a Rudy Gobert conversation in there, and then there's the Mike Conley conversation. And I think that Mike Conley, one of his greatest strengths is his defense. You know, his ability to get through screens, his ability to be a heady defensive player, meaning that he makes good decisions in the moment. You know, when he's presented with a situation, he knows where he should be and how to approach it. And I think that he's able to make life very difficult on the opposition's guards, and that's what you want him to do. But yeah, I think that if you're the Jazz, a fully healthy roster, yes, is capable of playing with anybody. The problem is that you think that you can get away with resting Mike Conley against a Wizards team that is finally healthy. And everyone's saying, oh, well, this team is trash, and they've been awful, and they're horrible. Yeah, that's true. They haven't been a good team, but a lot of that is because of injury. They have played, injured a lot of this year, and last night they weren't injured. They had everybody going. You've got Beal, you've got Westbrook. Everybody wants to say that Ish Smith got embarrassed. I'm telling you right now, that may have happened in the first quarter. He dominated the Jazz in the fourth quarter. He came up with like 10, 12 points in the fourth quarter, was absolutely fueling their runs at the end of the game. And I just think that the Jazz thought last night that they said, hey, we're going to circle this game on the calendar to get Conley a night off, and that came back to get them. And so I look at what Phoenix did; they won, right? I look at what the rest of the league is doing; they're not taking nights off. You know what I mean? The Suns aren't taking nights off. The Nuggets aren't taking nights off, but the Jazz feel like they can, and so I just think that that's interesting.
Well, I mean, and you've earned that right, I guess, if that's really how you want to go about this season. I mean, you've earned that right by winning. You won 24 straight games at home. You're still 40-14. You're the only 40-point team in 40-point team in the league. I mean, I look at the way this team performs. The thing that really worries me about the Jazz is this perception that the Jazz have elite depth. And this is a question as a Jazz fan you need to ask yourself, do they truly have elite depth?
Well, what does elite depth look like to you?
Can you play 10 guys off the bench that can help you win games? The answer for the Jazz is no. I think you can play 8 guys off the bench who can truly help you, because I don't know what you're going to get out of Derek Favors. Mm-hmm. In an up-tempo three-point shooting series, Derek Favors probably can't play a lot because you're going to need Rudy to rebound, right? You're probably looking at 14 to 16 minutes out of Faves, which, by the way, I don't think that's the end of the world. It's you're just not counting on that. Obviously, Jordan Clarkson's a gimme. Right? He's fantastic off the bench for you, vital off the bench for you. Joe Ingles, when everything's right, Joe Ingles is coming off the bench. There's 7 right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you got to start asking yourself, okay, well, what else am I getting? You're getting 3-point shooting, and I think George Niang last night, with a longer exposure and a lot more responsibility, showed that he can do a couple other things. In the playoffs, he's not going to have that opportunity. Right? So I'll give you 8. And if you're saying that Derek Favors is a key contributor, okay, I'll even throw in 9.
Yeah.
They don't have elite depth.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I think that they have a great rotation. 9 guys is what I would call a rotation. I think elite depth is where you're pushing your bench to 11 and 12 deep, and all those guys can come in and give you the minutes that you need them to give you. The Brooklyn Nets are not a great example from a health standpoint, but just looking at them on paper, they have great depth. You look at their starting 5, you've got 3 All-Stars in your starting 5, you've got a should-be All-Star in Joe Harris, and then you've got DeAndre Jordan. So, you have an elite starting 5, and then you've got all these guys that are coming off the bench.
5
Bruce
more,
Brown,
man.
And,
Come on.
You've got all these dudes coming off the bench that have shown the ability that they can score. And I think that's the biggest thing. Last night is a perfect example of what we're talking about when we say it's Donovan and everybody else late in the game. What do you notice about last night? Donovan goes crazy in the first quarter, gives you 12 points, and then he pretty much falls off the rest of the game. And I don't even care
Second and third, I would say the last 5 minutes he was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that baseline turnaround 3 was
but see, everybody said that was unbelievable, right? Everybody said that was some amazing shot, and here's what I'm telling you. That shot in the moment, yes, was a clutch shot, 100%. That's a shot I would expect Donovan Mitchell to make. It's a corner 3. It's relaxed 3. It's a wide open look by his standards. It's not some insane fall away into the crowd.
I can see that.
But my point here is that what I was getting at here is that last night you don't have Joe Ingles going off with Donovan. You don't have all these other guys helping Donovan down the stretch, and that's why we say They should have won the game. If we're being honest about it, they should have won this game. They were down by 19. They come back. They just didn't have enough left in the tank at the end of the game to reel the Wizards in. That's the issue.
Yeah, I agree. Akil Jean-Pierre, excuse me if I'm killing that, on YouTube says MPJ, Michael Porter Jr., made all bubble second team when Jamal Murray didn't play in the seeding games for the Nuggets. Get that MPJ offensively. That'd be big. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he's really developed. We've talked about this a couple times. AJP, that's your new name. We've talked about this a lot, Akil, in that we think Michael Porter Jr. has really had a breakout season. I think the presence of Aaron Gordon has really helped. I think the passing of Nikola Jokic, which I think has gone to the next level this year, has really helped MPJ take that step forward. And I think feeling 100%, and Michael Porter Jr.'s talked about this, that he didn't trust himself earlier in his career, the first year and a half of his career. Now he feels like he can trust himself. He trusts what he's seeing, trusts what he's thinking, and he trusts what he's feeling. And his body feels good. And you can see he's playing above the rim a lot more, which worries you a little bit, but he's also shooting the three. That wing three that MPJ is shooting is lethal. So I think that's a great point.
And his offensive rebounding is really the other portion of his game that's really grown. That was one of the things that he really struggled with early in his career. Aggressive on the offensive glass, and it only matters for him because I think, is he 6'8", I think, 6'9"? He's somewhere in there. He's very tall
long,
for his
dude.
position,
He's
and
long.
they need him to rebound.
Yeah. Will says, you guys talk about the Jazz having no depth. Look at the Suns. What quality do they have even one guy off their bench? Okay. Now, Will, I know you're a diehard Jazz fan. I'm going to give you a second to retract that. Because if you really think there's zero quality, have you seen 1 minute of Cam Johnson? Just even 1 minute of Cam Johnson. He's probably, behind Jordan Clarkson, he'd be your seventh guy. Mm-hmm. He'd be number two off you. The way he shoots, and the other thing about Cam Johnson, and I think nobody realizes, that guy's on the floor all the time. He is diving after loose balls. He's giving you effort. He's got an incredible afro flow lock lettuce thing working right now that I'm incredibly jealous of. And for those reasons, I think you're crazy to say they have not won. I look at the guys who impact the game for the Phoenix Suns off the bench. They get important minutes out of Dario Saric. Mm-hmm. He is, in my opinion, a real key contributor for them. I don't know where he fits in. Is he better than Derek Favors? He's probably more agile, although Favors has shown some bounce. I look at Torrey Craig. It's night to night with Torrey. There are times where Torrey is a vital player for the Phoenix Suns, and he gives them strong depth. But I don't think there's any doubt that Cam Johnson, Craig, Saric, I'd even point at Cameron Payne.
Cameron Payne has come off the bench and turned himself into a nice little shooter. Somebody who can give you 10 off the bench.
But
real
even
quick.
more than that, I think he gives you a tenacious, what's the right way to say this? I think he gives you a tenacity that every team needs. Mm-hmm. He gives you that ability. He's that little chihuahua that bites at your ankles. And he's making life difficult. And he's left-handed, so his release is awkward, but it's quick, and so a lot of guys don't get to the shot.
Yeah.
I think that matters.
I don't think that the Suns I think the Suns' depth is really solid. Better or worse, I think that
it's close.
We could talk about that all day, but they have good depth. There's no doubt, and I think that I can understand if a Jazz fan hasn't watched a lot of Suns basketball, but I'm telling you, man, the Suns, the thing that separates the Suns and allows them to give the Jazz a run for their money is the Suns are really, really locked in as a team. They understand how to move the ball. They understand what they have to do to go ahead and win a ball game. And that is you can't replicate that.
Yeah, I agree. Will continues, and I'm sure you're about to wax poetic about the Laker depth as well. Well, I've only been saying this for 3 weeks now.
Yeah, I mean
their depth, the Lakers' depth is the best in the Western Conference, and it's getting better every single night because they're playing heavy minutes now, and so they're developing. I look at Talon Horton-Tucker, and I don't know what more you want out of a bench player.
I think that it pisses Jazz fans off that we're not sitting here being ultra positive on the Jazz, and I get that, but at the same time, let's be realistic. Let's not live in fantasy land about the Utah Jazz. I think that the Los Angeles Lakers have elite depth. They have depth that is very rare to see, and we're seeing it every single night.
And I think what you have to realize is everybody got pushed forward. Mm-hmm. Okay, so depending on the night, are you starting Kuzma or not? Okay, throw him in as a starter. Take him out of the bench mob. I look at Markieff Morris. Mm-hmm. I look at Again, I just point to, Horton Tucker.
Caruso.
Alex Caruso gives them incredible minutes. I think Montrezl Harrell has gotten exposed a little bit this year, and he is certainly going to have to go back to the lab offensively. But defensively and rebounding-wise and attitude-wise, Montrezl Harrell is the number one guy off of most teams' benches in this league because of his ability. I think when you look at the struggles off their bench, certainly would be a Wesley Matthews.
Brutal.
But they just picked up Ben McLemore for one reason. They need wing threes.
And what did he do in the Nets game?
And
Gave
what did
9 of them.
2 of 7 last night.
Yeah.
But the guy shoots wing threes.
Yeah.
And when you look at their bench, the Jazz have half of the depth that the Lakers have.
Yeah.
And again, I get it. It's the Jazz. It's the Lakers. It's a rivalry. You're never going to say nice things about the Lakers. But if we're being, just being honest down the middle, the Lakers have the best depth in the Western Conference.
Yeah.
And note I said if LeBron James comes back, because I don't know that he will. There's a month to go, and they're saying he's at least a week away from reevaluation.
Yeah.
I think if Anthony Davis comes back, and it sounds like that's a week away from him returning to game action, can he stay healthy? Is it truly an Achilles? Is it a calf? Is he 80% of 100%? I don't know. Without their stars, the Lakers are not a playoff team, in my opinion. They're a one series and out. But that won't be because they don't have depth. Yeah. They've got 9 guys right now without LeBron and without AD. They've got 9 guys right now that they're playing, and they're playing at a very high level.
Yeah.
So I understand that there's a rivalry there. And again, I'll just go back and say, I think the story of the NBA last night was not the Jazz losing. It's Jamal Murray.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, and I hate to say it this way, but I think the Jazz are very fortunate with this situation in Denver.
Yeah.
Because you're not playing your best basketball right now, but you certainly saw something of a return out of Bojan Bogdanovic, and the pieces are in place to win a championship, or at least contend for one. There's so many unknowns right now. You don't know where Denver's going. You don't know what's going to happen with the Lakers. You really don't know who's going to show up in a Clipper uniform night tonight. I don't know what you have in a long series in Phoenix, but what I do know is that you have the quality and you have guys that are battle tested in Utah.
Yeah.
This team can contend for a championship right now, and Jamal Murray's injury, if it truly is an ACL and he's kaput, there's no reason the Jazz shouldn't win the Western Conference championship.
Totally agree. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm 100% with that.
Now, having said that, this situation in Minneapolis last night, and the Nets not playing, the East is wide open. And I still maintain that when 100% of players are healthy in both conferences, the Brooklyn Nets are the best team in the NBA.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, Kyrie wasn't going to play last night for family reasons.
Which is just dumb.
I'm telling you,
honestly.
Do not overlook this situation. Please don't. Because I will again say Kyrie Irving is the problem in Brooklyn. When they lose, it will be on Kyrie Irving. It will not be on Kevin Durant, who just, as you like to say, rolls out of bed and has 20 points in the box score. Just write down 20 before the game even starts, and then go ahead and add from there. And James Harden is going to have a double-double and probably push a triple-double most nights. Kyrie Irving's going to win or lose games for this team. And it'll be interesting to see how long these family reasons continue or are tolerated in Brooklyn.
Yeah, that's my question. I mean, why are they tolerated? Like you don't need them to win. Clearly, I mean that's been on full display.
I don't know about that. I look at the rest of the East. I mean, you may be right about that. I mean, without Joel Embiid in Philly, the Sixers are not a threat.
I just think that the Nets without Kyrie Irving are a more balanced team. I mean, if you have Kevin Durant, James Harden on the floor together, and you have the other guys, who are doing their thing, filling in their role, Joe Harris's, and the other role player guys, it's a really nice flowing offense. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, they're not Boston who needed Kyrie. They don't need Kyrie. I think that it's just a nice to have thing.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think when I look up and down the standings in the East, it's inexcusable for the Nets not to win the Eastern Conference title.
Yeah, well, that's
Inexcusable.
what injuries will do to you.
I look at all the injuries around the NBA, and I think whether it's LeBron and AD, Jamal Murray, Giannis Antetokounmpo is another one. I look at all these major injuries, and obviously there is wear and tear. And we have not seen the last of a superstar going down to injury here.
Yeah.
These guys have played a lot of basketball. Basketball is much like football. It is incredibly, hard on your body, knees, ankles, Achilles, backs. I look at Bradley Beal. They're saying it's not a hip, that it's a back injury. These guys have all played a lot of basketball. And if you're LeBron James and you went to the NBA Finals every year for a decade and the Olympics in between there, and you have a lot of mileage on those tires right now. And I look at Anthony Davis, that's a big man who plays a lot of game at the rim, who played deep in, obviously, winning a championship. I mean, I'm not surprised to see these injuries. I'm not with the Jazz Nuggets series in the bubble last year. I'm not surprised to see that some of the Nuggets are breaking down.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
You have to be careful with what you're seeing here. And you look at some of the situation with Giannis. He's got a sore knee. You better slow play that.
Yeah, I think a lot of these guys who are sitting out have sore knees or sore legs or sore this or sore that, and I think that you do have to slow play it, but I think that's what we're seeing with Mike Conley. We're seeing they're calling it injury prevention or injury management. And I think it's smart. I don't even think it's bad that they're resting Mike Conley, because it's just a fact. You just know that if you run him out there on a nightly basis, he's not going to make it. I mean, that's just as simple as it is, and you really need him to be as healthy and as close to 100% as possible for when the postseason starts, because there's not off nights in the postseason. You're not missing games in the postseason. So I think they're handling it well, but I also think that the Suns are close enough to the Jazz where you can't afford to keep dropping games like the Wizard game.
You need that number one seed if you're the Jazz.
Yeah.
But I think when you look at Jamal Murray last night, boy, you better slow play. You should find a game or two for Donovan down the stretch. Because you look at Jamal Murray and you look at the physical pounding that Donovan Mitchell takes every single night. He plays up in the air. He attacks the basket. He gets body blocked on a nightly basis. You look at Jingles last night, taking that Bradley Beal shoulder to the stomach. Those are the kind of things that it's moments like that you can never get back.
Yeah.
And I think the Jazz are so close. And I'm hesitant to say this is as close as they've been since the Karl Malone, John Stockton era. But man, I feel like this team has the ability.
That's arguable.
Well, I think this team has the ability to be elite, and if you lose a Donovan Mitchell, or look at the impact Jordan Clarkson is having, they're losing close games. If he just gave you 10 points, you're probably winning these games.
Yeah.
So it's just something. It's something to keep an eye on. Brandon Whiteside says Nets are a bunch of mental cases. I agree with that.
Totally agree. I think outside of James, I think KD clearly and Kyrie clearly are head cases. For sure.
I agree with you. Trevor says, it's enlightening to see other teams catch bad breaks and the Jazz be in a position to capitalize, but will they? I'm just so nervous.
I mean,
well, basketball is not a game of luck, right? Basketball is a game of preparation and taking advantage of opportunities. And so I think when you look at this opportunity, the Jazz have been presented with the Jamal Murray injury, they're going to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Because I don't think, and look, I know that we have waxed poetic about the Aaron Gordon trade, and I still think Nikola Jokic is the MVP, and now without Jamal Murray, I think he's going to win or lose that award in the next 4 weeks.
Yeah.
They're not the same team without Jamal Murray. And on the play where Murray got hurt last night is a perfect example of that. He is running down the floor with his frickin' hair on fire, attacking the basket, and his knee blows up. That's what they miss when he's not in there. So It'll be interesting to see that. Barry says, did you guys see the Julius Randle interview last night where he talked about Kobe Bryant? I didn't see Julius talking about Kobe Bryant. I saw you showed me a piece on it, or somebody showed me, or sent me a piece on it.
Had a piece on Julius Randle talking about. Julius had said that in the couple of years that he played with Kobe Bryant in LA, that Kobe had told him that every time you land in a new city, before you get to the hotel, you need to go and shoot and get your work in. So Julius, tells this story about how he landed in a new city and he went to this high school gym to get his work in after they had landed before, he went to the hotel. And the athletic director was waiting there for him and said to Julius, hey, it's really great to see you. I don't see a lot of guys, and the last guy that was here was Kobe, And so Julius had just said that was very emotional for him. And so, yeah, I think that Julius is he's following the advice that Kobe gave him. I think he's seeing the improvement in his career, and I think the only regret that Julius probably would have is that he wished he would have started sooner, and that's really it, because he's doing well now.
Yeah, and I think he is. I just think that it is that whole story, tells you what Kobe was. And the story that I saw talked about how the Knicks landed in Detroit, and Julius had set up a high school to go and practice, get his shots up before going to bed. The athletic director was waiting at the school to keep it open so Julius could work out. And the athletic director said, well, it's really good to see you here. Most guys don't come anymore. The last guy who did this was Kobe Bryant. And it really impacted Julius on a personal level. And now Julius has gotten a handful of his teammates to go and do these late-night shoots with him as well. And I think that's why you're seeing the Knicks are such a much more formidable opponent, because instead of going to the club or going out to eat, they're going to the gym and then they're going to bed.
Yeah.
And this is as old as the day is long, but the guys that go to bed are always much better than the guys who go out to the club. The guys who refuse to go out and party on the road are the guys that perform at a much higher level. So that's why I think Julius Randle is really taking a huge step forward in leadership and in performance. Make sure that as you watch this video, you give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are so close to 350 subscribers. When we get to 500, by the way, Jake has come up with this wild scheme where he's going to give you his Lamborghini Huracan.
Yeah.
So you might want to subscribe so you have a chance to win a Lamborghini Huracan. Did I mention it's a diecast? Anyway, the point is, please hit subscribe on our YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. Big news out of the NFL yesterday. Julian Edelman announced his retirement. And immediately it was, put him in the Hall of Fame. Oh, nobody, Jerry Rice, All of a sudden, well, nobody said it like that. But all of a sudden, Julian Edelman was the greatest wide receiver since sliced bread. And we do this all the time. Julian Edelman is in the Hall of Very Good. Julian Edelman has very good postseason stats. Julian Edelman's not a Hall of Famer, Jake, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Edelman... So Edelman has this thing where he's got this amazing story, right? Comes from a Nowhereville high school, was not heavily recruited, had to earn his way in the league, all this stuff. Like basically the great, hey, I'm nobody, came from nothing, ended up being a 3-time Super Bowl champ, a Super Bowl MVP, like all this awesome stuff, right? And I think people want to say, hey, he's a Hall of Famer because he's got 3 Super Bowls, he's a Super Bowl MVP, and he's the reason that they won some of those rings. He made some amazing plays. And what I'm telling you is, yes, that is very much true, but I'm also telling you that a Hall of Fame career in totality is not made just simply in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like Tom Brady, think of it this way. If Tom Brady was just an average-ass quarterback in the regular season, and only had greatness in the postseason, he wouldn't be who he is today. If he was that, his name would be Nick Foles, and that's why Nick Foles isn't a Hall of Famer. So that's why I say Edelman is a phenomenal player. He has a great story. He's what you want every NFL player to be, but he's not a Hall of Famer.
He is a Patriots Ring of Honor guy,
Yes,
no doubt about
100%.
that. But, I mean, I think the best comparison is Wes Welker. Wes Welker completely changed the slot position in the NFL. The only difference between Welker and Edelman, obviously, is Welker doesn't have a Super Bowl ring. And he, in Denver and in New England, happened to play there over, 6-8 years, where Manning and Brady were going back and forth, and he was on the wrong side of it. So Welker doesn't win a Super Bowl ring. But I can also think of names like Gary Clark. I can also think of names, like Torrey Holt with the St. Louis Rams. Mm-hmm. If Torrey Holt's not in the Hall of Fame, no, you are not putting Julian Edelman in the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. That just that's an impossibility. Torrey Holt, made 7 Pro Bowls, won a Super Bowl, 920 catches for 13,382 yards and 74 touchdowns. He's not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I look at a guy like Reggie Wayne. Reggie Wayne's another guy. Listen, I'm not trying, and this is the unfortunate part of these conversations.
Yeah.
You wind up knocking Julian Edelman because Wes Welker's not in the Hall of Fame. These guys are all really good football players. Mm-hmm. Wes Welker belongs in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's any question Torrey Holt, who was on the greatest offense ever, was the best wide receiver on the greatest offense ever, belongs in the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that Julian Edelman was an elite wide receiver who belongs in the Hall of Very Good. And the Hall of Fame is for revolutionary, elite, top of the world wide receivers, of which Julian Edelman was not.
Right.
And I think that is the succinct way of saying it. I just think that it's one of those things that you have to find your niche. Wes Welker revolutionized the slot. I look at Reggie Wayne. Reggie Wayne was a dominant player. I look at Torrey Holt. Torrey Holt was the jet go guy.
Yep.
A lot of people argue that Marshall Faulk made him great because he forced one-on-one coverage because everybody was doubling Marshall. Okay, great.
Cool, he still had to catch the ball, guys.
He still had to run the route. He still had to run by the guy, and he still had to catch the football. And granted, it was thrown by Kurt Warner, who's arguably the best deep ball thrower of his generation. Torrey Holt still had to run down the sideline and catch the football.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just think we underrate the performances of some of these guys to make Julian Edelman look better.
Yeah.
So, and if there's an argument to be made for the talent around you, Tom Brady is the ultimate maker of wide receivers. See Chris Hogan.
Yeah.
Right? I look at Troy Brown.
Yes.
I look at, how many.
I think Julian, one thing that I will say is Julian's one of the best clutch players there's been. One of the best guys at playing what's called backyard football. That's what I like to call it, where it's a real dirty play. It's it's 2 guys battling in the middle of the field to get the ball. He does a lot of great things for his role, but he was not. I mean, people are treating Julian Edelman like he was again the Jerry Rices of the world or something, and that's just not. That's not who he was to the league. He was that to the Patriots, but not to the NFL in totality.
Yeah. Totally agree with you. Make sure you give us a thumbs up. Hit subscribe on our YouTube channel. Just search The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show. You can find our YouTube channel by going to our website, themontyshow.com, or you can just plug it into Google, Monty, The Monty Show.